So, good morning, everyone. My name is Swapnil. I head the social media and the content team in 𝐿𝐿. And today we have with us Kasturi, and she is a relationship coach and a marriage and family therapist. And she is in her mission to help people worldwide building healthier relationships. So, Kasturi, over to you. It's all
Thank you,
your
Swapnil.
platform, yeah. And I request everyone to switch on your cameras if you can, in case you wish to, so that the session become a little bit more interactive. Or you can put your questions in the chat box. We are happy to help everyone.
Yes, guys, thank you so much, Swapnil, for the beautiful introduction. Thank you. And thank you to all of you guys who are joining in on a Saturday morning. Appreciate all of the enthusiasm and your will to learn and understand relationships better. We are going to be talking about some interesting stuff today, right? And also, while we are talking about all of this, if there are any questions, please, as Swapnil mentioned, put it on the chat box so that we can see and I can pick out certain questions and answer them.
And you can, in fact, talk. If you don't want to switch on your camera, yeah, you can speak. Yeah.
Absolutely. So looking forward to some interaction as well, right, guys? But I'm here to talk about something very interesting today, actually. A very important aspect of relationships, which are also known as, there's a concept called paper cuts in relationships. And I wanted to explain that to you. And I also wanted you to understand that this is so common that it kind of hinders our relationships in ways that we are not consciously aware of, but still we feel like there's something missing in our relationship is not feeling, and these are about romantic relationships, right? Our romantic relationships are not feeling like it was before, or the health of the relationship is not great. But there are no certain big incidents, there are no certain big fights, or there are no bad situations that have cropped up in the relationship, but still the relationship feels like it's lacking something. So the entire point of understanding what is this discontentment that we feel in our romantic relationships, in our marriages, while we are dating, what is this discontentment? To understand that, we must understand the concept of paper cuts. What paper cuts are? Generally, we are familiar with the term paper cuts. What are paper cuts? They are like very tiny cuts that happen while we are handling paper. Correct? So, and at that point, we don't feel those paper cuts. Paper cuts are very like, stealthily comes into our life. Only when we are like washing our hands or maybe squeezing a lemon, we'll feel like, oh, my hand is like stinging. Like, what happened? Like, oh, my finger is, oh, maybe I'm hurt. And then we realize that, oh, something cut me and I was not conscious of it at that point, right? But when there is a trigger from an outside source, for example, the soap or the lemon, my hand starts hurting and I realize I got hurt. What has that gotten to do with a relationship, right? When we are in relationships, there are so many things that go on between you and your partner, right? Everybody has certain kind of stuff going on in their household, in their lives that we speak about, we talk about with our partners. And there might be incidents where our partner is not very receptive of my emotional needs. There might be times when they are too busy, maybe on their phones, on their laptops. I want to talk to them about something, but they are listening to me, but they are not giving me the attention I want and I deserve. There might be times when I want to celebrate special occasions or some occasion is special to me, but the kind of reciprocation I get from my partner might not be up to the mark, right? Where I feel like I was let down in some way. Now, of course, we want to be happy in relationships and nobody wants to pick up fights just for the sake of picking up fights, right? Everybody wants to maintain a certain kind of peace, a shanti in the relationship, right? And we let go of these things. At most points, maybe it's happened 50 times, but we'll let go of it 49 times. Maybe there is one fight that happens where we burst out talking about all the 49 times that we have been let down. But there will be times where we will completely avoid talking about it or convincing ourselves that maybe we are expecting too much. Maybe my needs are too much, maybe this is unrealistic, maybe this does not happen, or maybe I shouldn't be so demanding. And we kind of self-censor, self-invalidate our own selves at that point. But the health of the relationship gets really affected by this, and that kind of not having that attention at that right point, not having the reaction at that right point, can be termed as paper cuts in the relationship, where I am okay, I like go, like, oh, they are busy, I understand, and I get the practical aspect of me out, and I go on with life. But then later in 7 days, I realize that I'm not feeling that same kind of intimacy for them, or maybe I'm snapping, or I'm just getting irritated with everything that they are doing, or just like, in a bad mood. Why is this happening? This is happening because I have ignored certain triggers that have come my way because I wanted to maintain peace at that time. So that is what can be called paper cuts in a relationship. Okay, and it's very important for us to understand this, because we need to keep it consciously in our minds that keeping silent right now and kind of not confronting this small situation because we are afraid of being too demanding, being too needy, or being too like fighting all the time kind of a thing might actually affect the long-term health of the relationship. And then when things escalate and there is a volcanic eruption, it's much more difficult to put all of it into place than it would have been with one simple conversation that we could have done. Okay, so that is why it's important for us to know what is the effect and what is the repercussion of silencing ourselves. Now, what do we do once we understand this concept? Okay, chalo, we understand that there are paper cuts that happen in the relationship, and this is how it affects the relationship. What are we going to do about it? Two things. Okay, but first off, can everybody, or just put it on chat, do you like disagreements in relationships? It's a yes or no answer. You can either answer yes or either no. Can you please, everyone, just type into the chat box? Question is, do you like conflicts? Yes, go on. Yes. So I have gotten 7 no's till now. Yes, Ambika says sometimes. And Navi says no, depending on topic. Interesting. Right. So I think majority of us would be like, no, conflicts are not something that, we look forward to. That is not what a relationship is supposed to be, right? And that's one of our biggest misconceptions. All this while being a couple therapist is something that I have realized in my personal journey with my relationships, as well as with understanding clients and life of clients, has been that most of our resentment and most of our sadness could have been stopped by having a conflict at the right time. Because we are so afraid of disagreements, we are so afraid of being the person who would initiate a conflict, or be in that spot where this person is actually being vocal and wanting to know, why are we feeling this way, or why is the relationship going that way? This entire fear inhibits us from having real conversations. Because if you're afraid of an outcome of like, I don't want it to end into a fight. And there are a lot of people who also think that the moment a fight happens, it's the end of the relationship. This is the end. Oh, we have had a fight like this. What happens to the relationship next? Oh, this is a relationship that cannot go on. So a lot of us have a belief like that. That if this kind of a fight happens, that means this person doesn't love me anymore. If this kind of a fight happens, it's a bad relationship. We have to let go of these boxes when it comes to conflict. Why does these boxes occur in the first place? Because also when we are young, when we are children in our households, fights are looked upon as a bad thing. Especially if we come from like, Desi households, or we can come from like Southeast Asian households. We are always asked to be the peacemaker, and especially women. There are also men. I am not saying that there are men who are peacemakers in the family or households, but a lot of women have been asked to not vocalize, not kind of speak up or speak out, because fights are considered a bad thing. They are like a thing that shouldn't happen. But then if you're not vocalizing certain things, how are issues getting resolved? Somebody will make khana the next day, and they will make you eat 2 extra rotis and fight is resolved. That's the kind of mindset we have when it comes to resolution. That, we are going to show in some kind of action, or we are going to stay together, and that is the resolution. The resolution of a disagreement is the fact that I have done something that shows an act of love, and that solves the entire issue, and we both can move on. But what are these doing? These are creating bumps in your way. Again, if you call it from the concept of paper cuts in your way, that actually culminate, and one day you are sitting alone and you realize, oh, the relationship is not what it is, or I wish I could have a relationship like that, right? So fights are not a bad thing if you know how to fight. And as everything else in life, we have to learn it. Just like we learn science, math, we learn how to use the internet, we learn how to use Zoom and go live, whatever we are doing. We learn everything, right? This is not something that we have known since forever. Similarly, especially with fights and with vocalizing your disagreements, vocalizing and expressing your needs, we have to learn how to do it. Because the moment we understand that fights are not a bad thing, we are also like, wired to understand, how can it be expressed then? But if we are concentrated on the fact that fights are bad, and this is not what I want to do, and this is not what the relationship should look like, I will always be discontent, and I will always not be able to vocalize anything that I truly feel like. So one is to stop being afraid of conflicts. And I'm not saying this that, now you are done with the life when you go and you start fighting with people just because you're not afraid of conflicts. No, but I want you to keep this as a conscious mindset that if there is a disagreement that's happening, or if there is a conflict that you feel like it's a difficult conversation, it's not a bad thing. Don't place morality into a conflict. It's not good or bad. It's just what it is. Let's accept the reality for what it is. Understand that there is a situation where both of you don't agree upon, and there is no good or bad boxes. Let's get rid of our boxes. The moment we get rid of our boxes, our conversations become much more fluid. Our conversations become much more authentic and true to our own selves. And we, in turn, can already start having better conversations. Okay, so that's one way we can handle paper cuts. What is the second way? The second way is to speak up when it hurts. There is a statement that my partner told me that does not sit well with me. Okay, they told me something like, oh, can you stop bothering me right now? I'm just too busy, thinking about work. I cannot be bothered right now. Please don't. And the way they said it, or how they said it, maybe there were 3-4 family members sitting, or, I felt bad, or there were friends sitting, whatever it is that triggered me, I felt bad at that time. But I keep quiet because of my fear of maybe surroundings or consequences, or not having that safe environment to speak up properly, maybe. But we must utilize our voice as an expression and try and speak, even if we feel like my voice is shaking, I do not have the right words. I must try to speak and vocalize my hurt at that point. You need not get into the entire fully blown conversation, but you do need to make the other person understand. Instead of assuming, they should have known how to speak to me, we tell them, hey, I understand you are busy, but I appreciate you telling me this properly. Maybe I didn't like the tone that I heard. Or is it something, I'm sorry if I irritated you, but that was not my intention. I understand you're busy, but I'm not comfortable with the kind of tone or kind of words you use for me. And when you are free, I hope we can have a conversation about this. Something as simple as that. But that's super effective because it draws the other person's attention that you have certain boundaries, you have certain emotions at play. And even though they might be doing that very unconsciously, it'll immediately bring their focus that, yes, there is something. And you need not be afraid of their reaction. Their reaction is on them. If they get triggered by hearing this, if they get super angry by hearing this, then there is a different conversation you must have about how much of safe space do you have in the relationship to vocalize your own needs, which of course indicates a different aspect of it. But we are sometimes too caught up thinking, okay, when I say this, I know how my husband will react. Or when I say this, I know how my partner will react. No, you don't. It is based on assumption of the past. But if we keep on acting from the past, we can never improve the health of the relationship in the present. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Being authentic, speaking about your needs, and not being afraid of conflict are ways where we can improve the health consciously in the relationship and reduce the effect of paper cuts. Paper cuts will always be there. Our partners will hurt us in some way or the other. But what are we doing about it is the main question. And these are 3 ways where you can tackle these paper cuts. Right, guys? Anything when it comes to these, you want to ask or put it on chat or speak up, please go ahead. No, everybody understands what I said. That's great.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So we discussed paper cuts, right? I also wanted to address something about safety in relationships, right? Because before I start, can I get an understanding of what do you guys think what safety in a relationship means? What feeling safe in a relationship means? Anyone, you can just put in your first thoughts on chat. You need not be right or wrong. There is no right or wrong in this session, actually.
Can I speak?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I feel like when I feel at home and like this is my place and I feel safe there. It's not that if you're sitting and doing something and anyone can come and tell you anything and you feel just out of place or like when you don't feel heard, like what your needs are, you're not heard.
Right.
So yeah, so I feel when somebody is feeling safe and secure, they feel that they are at home with peace. That is a feeling of safety for me.
That's
Because
nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that is then you can like have your suppose you are creative, so if you are at peace you can follow your creative intentions. If you are a social person, you can follow your social like increase your social interactions. If you're a family person, you can decorate your home and look after cook something for your family, whatever
Right.
your intention. If you're a business person, you can work from home or go to office with a peace in mind. I think for
Right.
me that is safety, because it lets you do when you feel safe, it lets you like it's a
Express
big
yourself
basis.
freely.
Yeah, and it's a basis for realizing your full potential. But unless you feel safe and secure, you cannot go ahead, because first need of a person is to feel secure. Otherwise he cannot move.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ambika, you're completely right. And I love your definition. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
As Ambika mentioned, her definition of safety is to be able to be in an environment that allows her to fully express herself authentically and go ahead with whatever she would want to do at that moment, instead of thinking about what's happening or, what is around, what is the environment going to think or maybe feel or say, right? So that kind of safety she would appreciate, and that is the safety she looks for. There are other people and there are other answers coming in. So Divya says feeling secured being around them. That's true. Nainika says we can be ourselves and still feel accepted. Absolutely. Kritika has a question. I'll take that up in a while. Alpa says able to speak up freely. Absolutely. Very true, Alpa. And OnePlus says safety is feeling that the person will not hurt you for any of your action. Interesting. Yes. Again, all of you are right in your own way. That is why there is no particular definition of that, this is what safety is, because safety looks different for everyone. But the entire concept of safety in a relationship is being able to just express yourself authentically. When I say express yourself authentically, it might mean with actions, it might mean vocally, it might mean the way you live, stay, envision your future, or like envision your present. But expressing ourselves also has certain criteria associated with it. Expressing ourselves authentically does not mean expressing ourselves as and when, however we want to, in outbursts. Just because I'm feeling angry, I'll get into a tantrum. Just because I'm feeling happy, I'll do whatever I want to do. Not that kind of emotionally regulated expression. There needs to be safety is a two-way street. It cannot ever happen that I only feel safe in the house. There's everybody else who is feeling unsafe, insecure. Safety doesn't foster in an environment like that. When you feel safe, it's given that the other person is also feeling safe in your presence, and safety is something that we bounce off each other. What does safety do, and why is safety so important? I'll come to that. I have another answer, which is P says safety is being strong enough to be alone, even if the close one hurts. Even the closest one, we can handle it. Being so safe with oneself. P, safety is not about being as okay being alone as it is about being safe in the presence of somebody else. Even when there is a person you love and you have attachment deeply, we are talking about what safety might look like and feel like in the relationship. What you said might be more about how I feel more secure and sense of worth within. Okay, so there is a difference. There is an overlap as well, but there is a difference for sure. So yes, I was talking about safety and why is it important for safety to be fostered? Because when I foster safety and when there is safety in the relationship, only then I can have proper conversations. Because no two people, when they get together, are mind readers. Yes, we have certain similar values, similar aspirations, similar goals when we come together for marriage or for a relationship. There is similarity, okay? But there is, and that similarity leads to compatibility. But there is no mind reading happening. There is no magic wand that we have or we possess, that we are just sitting because we are compatible with, tea in front of us. Just because we are drinking the same tea does not mean we are thinking the same thoughts. Okay, so it's important to understand that only when there is a sense of safety in the relationship can we express ourselves authentically. And the moment we express ourselves authentically, our conversations become better. Our intimacy becomes better, both in the bedroom and outside. Our spiritual, intellectual, emotional intimacy increases. That gives more physical intimacy into being. Because we need to feel like we are not constantly threatened or criticized or harmed or, looked at from a different angle, misunderstood all the time in the relationship. When we are constantly worried about what the other person is going to think, or they don't understand me, or they are going to criticize me about that, or somebody is going to tell me about that, or maybe, there are a lot of relationships where there is a lot of discussion that happens of the couple with a third party, maybe like a mother, sister, brother, or extended family, friends. There is more discussion about partners happening not within the partner, not with each other, but more from what my partner is doing to me, to somebody else. Very, very important to be wary of stuff like that. We might be doing such stuff unconsciously as well. And we have the best intentions. We want to help the relationship. But that's not how the relationship is helped. Because that conversation space needs to bloom within the relationship. That conversation space needs to be that safety needs to be built and inculcated within. We need to understand that we need to be on the same page when it comes to at least growth, so that we can talk and grow the relationship. So that's the kind of safety that actually harbors better conversations and better intimacy. Okay. Kritika says safety when you have trust and people around me are honest and their intentions are good. Yes, absolutely, Kritika. That's a good perspective. Where intentions are good, it's important, right? Where intentions are for my well-being. If the intention is always in a relationship, that is where a relationship differs from the relationship that we have with our own selves, right? We might have the best intentions for ourselves at certain points, but it might not be the best intentions for the relationship, because my intentions are me-centric. Relationships' intentions have to be we-centric. There are two people involved, right? So intentionally, what is it that we want? Do I want, there are certain conversations which we might have sometimes, caught up in emotion, where actually we want to be comforted. But the conversation's intention could be better if I thought of it from a point of view of, will it help the relationship? Will it help deepen the relationship? Or am I having this conversation just because I want to be comforted right now? I want to be proven right. I want my partner to tell me you are right, I'm sorry. Is it just because of that? Or is it because when I have this difficult conversation, when there are emotions at play, when I'm crying or they are shouting or whatever is happening, ultimately, when this conversation is done, it will help the relationship. If our relationship was at this stair, after this conversation, it will go one stair up. Is it like that? Or am I just having difficult conversations or fights to validate my own need? That also comes under intention, right? And what is it that you think of? What are your intentions about these conversations? So that's a great point, Ritika. Ambika says we should be able to move ahead. A relationship that stagnates us is not good or secure. Yes. And that is the ultimate goal. And, it doesn't come that easily though, right? Growth is something which is brought about by constant change. Where there is stagnancy, there is no growth. So, and when there is stagnancy, things are getting into a comfort zone. So there are couples who are constantly striving for growth, but very afraid of change. We must be willing to see the person for who they are right now, instead of being stuck on the versions that they were when they got married to us, or when we got into a relationship, or when we fell in love with them. Are we being able to love the version that they are today? Is one of the biggest pillars of a conscious relationship. It is not about being stuck with the image or the vision that you first had when you were infatuated and head over heels in love. Okay? It is more about choosing to love the person, choosing to be with a person, choosing to engage with this person because of the versions they are today at the moment. Are we being able to do that with true authenticity and through true love and validation for the person? Yes or no? If yes, great. If no, there might be certain things that we need to address, which comes in the form of conversations. Conversations happen when we are safe. Make sense? OnePlus asks, thank you. How to know that the person is safe before entering the relationship? Good question. I wish there was just one answer that I could give, which was a formula. I wish that, but it's difficult to know. Okay. Why? First off, because a person grows and evolves, and there are so many things that affect a person's mental state at points. It's not necessary that a person who is safe will be safe at all and every points of time. There might be bouts, and there might be, moments of insecurity and unsafeness that you feel. But that is something you have to fight, because 80% of the time, maybe they feel safe. So 80% of the times, if they feel safe, what are the qualities or characteristics, right? There's no judgment. Very important. How will you know that? There might be things that, there is no judgment towards you, because they will be like, I'm in love with you, so I don't judge you. But overall, a person must be willing to accept different perspectives, not just yours, but of the world. The world view of a safe person will be much more non-judgmental than unsafe people. Okay, number one, less non-judgment. Okay, more non-judgment, less judgment is one aspect, one pillar of it. The second would be partnering, knowing how to partner instead of parent. What do I mean by that? Partnering is when two people are walking side by side. Okay, one person is faltering, one person is experiencing a roadblock, they have stopped. The other person slows down, not necessarily stops and waits for them, slows down and says, I am here, don't worry, I am going for a recce, of the road ahead, I am going to be vigilant, you join me. Maybe fasten your, increase your pace after a while, but I am here, don't worry, I am walking on the same road. What will a parent do? A parent will either wait, help me with the burden, tie my shoelace, and be like, no, you can do this, you can do this. And I'll be like, no, you also have a goal to reach. Be like, no, you are okay or not. I am bothered about you. I'm scared, worried about you. or they will go ahead, they will walk 2 steps ahead and criticize me, nag me. How could you do that? How could you fall behind? How could you not see that there was a mistake here? Why did you not tie your shoelace in a proper way? Why is it opening in the middle of a race? Things like that. Do you get it? There are two situations. When there is parenting happening in the relationship, you will always feel unheard, criticized, nagged, not adequate enough. That's unsafe.
Yes.
That's an unsafe space to be in. Okay? Because I'm always not trying to realize my potential, but always trying to live up to the potential of what their image of me in their head is. Right?
Yes.
That
Yes.
is something we need to be wary of. Criticism, nagging, having a vision of me and trying to mold me into that vision, put me into that vision, 𝐒𝐄𝐒 me and tell me that this is who you need to be. Where you lose your sense of individuality, where you lose your sense of self, or maybe your intentions and opinions and voice is not being heard. You are being shut down. Every time you want to speak something, just like in a lot of us might have grown up in households where we were like our opinions did not matter for the longest time. Why? Because we were small. So we never speak in front of seniors or elders. And that continued. So because elders will always be elders, na? Even when we grow older, our elders grow more old. Right? So that dynamic never comes to a full equal path. Now one day I'll also be as old as them. No, they'll grow older only. So our opinions and our voices are always kept like, no, that's not important just because you are young. Similarly, in relationships, if we are used to a certain kind of dynamic like that in our childhood, it's very important. It's very easy almost for us to normalize this in a relationship. We give other person a power dynamic over us. We give other person a control over us, and sometimes unconsciously we even want to be held and pulled and parented. If that is what our situation is, we must also learn that I also need to learn how to partner. Okay, so I mentioned some of these things. These are some things that we can be wary of. We can understand that this kind of behavior does not foster safety. What fosters safety is unbiasedness, individuality, speaking, talking, even if we are wrong, and having a growth mindset, and the other person also giving us that space and freedom to be and express. Only then safety can be fostered. Okay. Also, these are something we must be wary of.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
I have a question related to the topic you said. Can I say?
Sure. Please go ahead. I can't understand who is this speaking. Can you just tell me your name?
Sneha. I'm Sneha
Okay.
here.
Yes.
So,
Hi, Sneha. Tell me.
So the points you just mentioned right now, I
Right.
just want to know, like, if there is tit for tat in a relationship, like you want that person, your partner, to be being heard, you say it. They say that I'm ready to hear you when you speak, but there is always the counterpart, like using words or catching all those stuffs. How do one person? So next time, whenever there is something like to discuss, I always feel like, let me not discuss this thing, because there is gonna be some other part again. I have to listen some more thing, counterpart again.
Okay, can I just summarize your question so that I understand if I'm getting it right? Let me know
Yes.
if I'm getting it wrong. Okay. So you are asking that, in major conversations, when you go to express something, or when somebody is trying to express something, they might be having their partners retaliate to them in the conversation about something they did maybe 2 days
Yes.
ago. And every time you are wanting to confront with a certain situation, you are made to hear what you have done earlier.
Yes.
So the conversation does not go anywhere. It's
Yeah.
always, okay, you did this, I did that. Okay, but you also did this. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Again, something that we deal with, maybe, it's very common, and this happens. So 2 things that you can do, and 2 things you can have. First off, First off, the first mindset shift that we need to have to encounter this is that this can change. That's the first mindset shift we need. If we do not have this mindset, we will not be able to try. Because we will be like, this is always, that's what's happening. What is the point? The moment there are mindset shifts, inner voice tells us that what's the point, we go dejected. We go in the conversation feeling like, "Arey, ye to aisa hi hona hai." That can really spoil a conversation. So first is you have to internally think that this is going to change. I want to change this. Once we have this mindset shift, two things we can do. One is to set an intention. Why are we having this conversation? Because it's very easy for conversations to start off with an apple and end with a zebra. Okay? So we go into the conversation telling them that, hey, I want to talk to you about the apple that's lying in the fridge for a while now. And it's important for me to talk about it because I feel once we discuss this, our overall cohabiting habits might be better and we will both feel we understand each other better. So are you ready for a conversation like this at the moment? Now, I'm just giving you an example, but what I'm doing here is I'm setting an intention. कि मैं conversation कर ही क्यों रही हूँ? What is the goal of this conversation? The conversation will help us understand each other. The conversation will help us make our relationship better. The conversation will help us be better human beings while we are living in the house. The conversation will help us have more mental peace. What is the conversation going to do? So set an intention so that every time the conversation gets deviated from this to something else, we can bring back the conversation to saying, but no, I understand you have a problem with that, but let's stick to the intention of the conversation right now. Okay? And secondly, we must know how to start up gently. This is a technical term, but I'll try and explain it to you. I'll try and explain it to you in a easier way. Where sometimes when we have certain things that we want to say or some bone to pick with our partner, unconsciously we might, our tone, our words, choice of words, our timing might be aggressive to them. And nobody wants to feel cornered. If you are facing or encountering a situation where there is tit for tat, it might mean that either you are being a little harsh when it comes to confrontation, and they might be feeling cornered. When a person feels cornered, their first instinct will always be to protect them. If there is something that comes on me, I will not be like, haan, aane do, dekha jayega. Right? Instinctively, my hands will go up and I'll go a little piche. That's something I'll do that's instinctive, right? Starting off softly, having this intention in place that you are not here to fight, you're not here to ruin peace, but you are here because there is something important that you want to discuss, sets the tone of the conversation. And secondly, starting, how do you gently start up? So that the other person does not feel defensive, we can always start off with I instead of you. Instead of going into the conversation saying, "Arey suno, that day you put 3 apples in the fridge and all the apples have rotted and the fridge is now spoiled and it's so disgusting and you're so stupid and careless." I go into the conversation, the situation still remains the same. It's still triggering me, but it is my journey that I learn to talk it out in a different way. I go, "Hi, listen, I opened the fridge today and I am so pissed. I cannot stand spoiled vegetables and rotten stuff. I am so upset. I don't know how to deal with this situation. Can we please talk about this and how this can be avoided in the future? Is that something you're willing to do right now? Because it matters to me." Is a kind of I statement where I am talking about my feelings of why this situation bothers me. It's not about how, ho gaya na, whatever has happened already. I want to have this conversation because I am feeling a certain way. So I will talk about my feelings and start the conversation. How my partner respects my emotions and understands my emotions is something that again is their journey, but there are only a few things that you can do, right? Because again, the safety and communication in a relationship is a two-way street. So I suggest you start using these two techniques, and you might be noticing improvements from the escalation. If their escalation was at 100, maybe it will come down to a 70. Then as you gradually, get more comfortable with these techniques or tools, you can see the escalation come down to a 50. The moment it both comes down to a 50, both of you can have better conversations about it. Okay. Setting an intention using I statements. Okay. And going into the conversation with a mindset that things can change. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Yes, guys. Spoken a lot. I think there are 15 minutes left. We can take questions if any. You can just speak.
There is one question from Kritika.
Yes, please. Yes, I can see that. Let me read that out. What all we should know about a man, or what all should I discuss before thinking of marriage? There are so many things that we can discuss, but I think depending on the fact, I'm looking at it from a dating perspective. I'm not going into the arranged marriage setup. Here I'm thinking, when I'm answering this question, my point of reference is we already know the person, or we are dating the person, or we are considering that I know this person and this person could be, a potential partner. If I look at it from that angle, there are some things that we need to know. Number one is, what does vision mean to this person? Do I have a vision of this relationship? Do I want the relationship to go a certain way? If yes, how? And what is that vision? And does the other person have a vision of what they envision their relationship, their marriage to look like? Right? So that's one thing. That's an overall understanding of, are we on the same page when it comes to marriage? Second would be to discuss finances, to discuss the role of family and expectations of family. That is third. Okay. One is finances. I think that's a topic that actually is so relevant in our society today, but there is so much of taboo, and there is so much of stigma when it comes to discussing money, that it becomes one of the biggest roadblocks that couples face after marriage. Okay. So second is to discuss finances. Maybe we all have a money story. I can put out some prompts maybe later on my Instagram story, if possible, about money prompts that both of you can use at any point in any stage if you are of the relationship, that you can put that you can question to each other, knowing the money story, what money means to you, how much of money is too much money, what would you do if there is money with you, have you had feelings where there has been no money, how have you dealt with that? To know each other's money story before a marriage, I would highly suggest, it's very important, so that we understand how a person views life. If I have 10,000 and my partner has 10,000, my partner wants to invest 7,000 and keep 3,000 for himself, while I want to go on a vacation with those 10,000 rupees, and what can be done with those 10,000 rupees. All of these smaller problems create a lot of burden in the marriage later on. Why is this happening? Because our money stories are different. How do we look at money, and what do we want to do with money is something we should discuss early on in marriage or before marriage. Thirdly, involvement of family. What does family mean? Where does family stay in the picture? And what happens? What are the kind of interactions? What's the kind of understanding that family provides, the support family needs? And all of these nitty-gritties, which we think, ke, ye to pata hi hai, we take it for granted. Something very important to question with each other. Okay. Fourthly, what are the expectations, or what are certain expectations when it comes to, now I have a wife and now I have a husband, or now I have a partner? How does life change? Does it not change, or does it change? If yes, how? If it doesn't change, why does it not change? Okay. Something important to discuss, expectations kya hai? When our roles change, when we are in a relationship, we are in a relationship. When we are in a marriage, we become somebody's partner. We become somebody's lifelong partner. We become a husband and a wife. What is the expectation of a husband in my life? What is the expectation of a wife? What are the roles that a husband and a wife should have? There are no right or wrongs, but these are just very deep conversations to understand each other's mental state, understand each other's conditioning and personality. Something very important that a lot of couples only realize way down the line after marriage. And that creates conflict because every time we are not on the same page. But at least if we are not even not on the same page, to be informed and to have these conversations can give rise to better clarity and help you making better decisions. Okay. So these are certain things that I would recommend.
Ma'am, these were the things where we know the person, but what about in arranged marriage where we don't know the person?
I think these are questions. When I look at it now, though I answered it from a point of view of if you're already dating, it becomes easier to ask these questions. But I think a more toned down version of these similar questions could be asked to a person, even if you're meeting them in an arranged setup also. Because also look at it from this point that though there might be less intimacy when it comes to mental intimacy or intellectual intimacy between the both of you, because it's an arranged setup, still, if a person is willing to answer these questions, means that the person is a safe person. Okay. A person has clarity, right? You are also being able to ask these and not feel, कि यार गलत तो नहीं पूछ दिया, या will this hinder the connection in some way? If questions like these are hindering the connection, I would be wary of going ahead with a connection like that, right? Because actually, these are the questions that are important in a marriage. Even if it comes from an arranged setup, even if it's a dating setup, at the end of the day, both of them have to go through this idea and, definition of what a marriage looks like, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. So understand the questions, and then you can tone down these questions in some way and ask them in a way that still maintains the essence, but also gives you that comfort, and the other person is also comfortable in answering them in some way, right?
Yes, true.
Okay, guys. I think I'm going to take one last question because then we'll be out of time. So
Navi has one question about anxiety and trauma.
How do we differ intuition from anxiety when in a relationship? Navi, very nice question. A very deep question that will definitely take up a bit of time, but I'm going to, I do have certain posts on my Instagram if you want to look at it. Okay, so do that. But I'm going to quickly answer this from a point of view of anxiety in a relationship comes from feelings of self-abandonment and not being heard, or something that is not fulfilled within us, but we are trying very hard to fulfill it in a relationship. Whereas intuition comes from the fact that we have fully expressed ourselves and have taken chances in life. We have done a lot of one thing to realize our preferences. Intuition comes from, I have taken chances in life and I know what's right for me. So if I'm encountering a gut feeling that's not bad, I know that gut feeling is coming because I'm not comfortable, because I know what I'm comfortable with. Anxiety might be confusing because anxiety is also a feeling that comes and there's tightness in our chest and heaviness in our stomach, but it does not come from surety. It comes from a lack of surety. So intuition has more clarity because you have been exposed to those situations and you know your preferences and choices now. Anxiety comes from not knowing and getting into a spiral of what if, because we have not exposed ourselves enough to different triggers or different situations that can actually help us give clarity and turn that anxiety into intuition. That's something I would want to say about that. Right, Navi? Tips on how to become more secure attachment. I think that's like a huge topic of discussion, which I cannot complete in like 5 minutes. I'm sorry. But yes, to be more secure, take chances. You can only be more secure, be more confident when you take chances. We should all move in life with the mindset that, yes, things might go wrong all the time. I might get cheated, I might get heartbroken, I might I might have a bad relationship, but I am resilient enough, I have known enough, and I have exposed myself to enough to know that even if life bogs me down today, I will get up tomorrow. Chalo, not tomorrow, next day, not next day, in a week. If you go into relationships thinking, what if they hurt me, you will always have anxiety. But you should go into relationships and you should face situations from a point of view of, even if something comes, I have the self-trust that I will face it. I have the self-trust that I'll bounce back. How to be more secure? In one word, be more self-trusting and expose yourself more to situations that scare you. Okay.
Alpa has raised her hand. Alpa, you want to say something?
Yes, Alpa, go on.
Actually, many a times I've tried to raise conflicts here, like raise issues in my friend groups and in my family as well, in a nice way also. But sometimes, not to label every man as aggressive, but few of the aggressive men, they turn the whole conversation around, and it turns into an heated argument where I who's raising the right questions, comes as shown in the bad light or as a bad wolf who's trying to create unnecessary drama, where I have analyzed thoroughly that this is not, like unnecessary. There's something which needs to be picked up. And I have been shown or made as a drama queen or someone. So this has happened multiple instances where there's some genuine problem. Like in a friends group, there was certain habits which were genuinely wrong for the other people as well, but no one was speak up. I took the courage to speak up, that too in a very respectful and thoughtful and carefully worded. But it has turned around in a very bad sour, putting me in a bad light.
And that is something that hurts you?
Yeah, then you feel like after that, then there is no point. Either you walk away from those relationship, or you just, continue being the things that they are. Because even after speaking up, there's no change. There's only aggression.
I think then, yes, you are right. Of course, it's not an ideal situation to be in, because you have been honest and you have wanted, your intentions were good about like, how you wanted to handle the friendship. But if a friendship is not reciprocative of who you are and cannot take criticism, and a lot of friendships are based on different conveniences, right? Sometimes these friendships are not meant for growth. Sometimes these friendships are not meant for, yes, we will conquer the world together. Sometimes the mentality is not that. And when it's not that, you are faced with aggression, you are faced with like labelings, right? And then I would suggest, Alpa, that are not the right kind of friendships for you, because maybe you synced with those people once, but maybe you are also growing now, and as you are growing, there are certain things that you will have to leave, right? So I think your journey here, you can't control what the other person is doing, but what you can control is understand maybe your definitions of friendship has changed. And if yes, can I find more people who are my tribe? Instead of trying to fit in and reducing myself and reducing my expectations and keeping quiet just because I have familiarity of a comfort zone of the Purana circle, right? That's something I would want you to think of, and like, think of the situation from that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
I think we just have 2 more minutes.
We do have 2 more minutes. I will
You
quickly
can answer Divya's query.
I'll do that. Is starting from scratch in a decade-old marriage so simple? Changing habits is difficult, and what if change is quite slow at one end and the other side it's faster? Starting from scratch, there is no such thing as starting from scratch, right? At the end of the day, there are certain incidents that you will hold on to. But the whole point of a mindset shift is not that we completely negate what has happened in the past, but we have hope of our efforts of how we can be an initiator in changing things. Now, again, changing habits might be difficult because the other person might be okay with however it's going. What if we have to get into this conversation, Divya, of the fact that do the changes I want is also the changes the person, my partner, wants? Are we on the same page when it comes to what change looks like? Or is the other person very comfortable and could have done without the change also, whereas I am the one who is pushing and asking for change? Maybe in those situations, the graph can go, upar niche, and it might be difficult. There might be clashing or not natural change happening. So at that point, you might feel like that. Also, when marriages are a little older, we get into comfort zones, right? So I highly suggest, instead of trying to do the work alone, if you want to see a kind of change and you want to facilitate certain conversations that have actually become normalized in the relationship, but you are not okay with that, I highly suggest you take the help of a therapist or marriage counselor who will be able to facilitate those conversations and also give you an unbiased viewpoint, right? Sometimes when relationships are older, we need more unbiased viewpoints to understand that both situations, what are they, and to facilitate the right kind of conversations without escalation. So I highly suggest you can take help of a third party and see if that helps change, or if it gives you new perspective. I think it will be helpful. Okay. Quickly, I'm sorry, but I'll also answer Vishwesh's question because that's the last one. Hi, how do you come back to normalcy after a big fight? How to initiate the conversation right after a huge argument? Again, huge topic, Vishwesh, but a good question. Thanks for asking. There are two ways. One, sometimes people need time to come back to the argument. So if you are a person who gets super irritated and super escalated when there is a huge argument happening, I highly suggest understanding that, yes, I'm feeling super angry right now, and conveying this to your partner. Instead of getting angry at why they are keeping on talking, you take a moment to be like, I'm super triggered, I'm super angry right now. I cannot contribute to this conversation sanely or with clarity at the moment. So I highly suggest, this is important, that I highly suggest we come back to the conversation in 15 minutes, 15 hours, 5 days. Why is it important to specify this? Is because our partner should not be left hanging because of our anger. We should come back to the conversation and give the conversation closure when we are cooled down. Okay. So that is one thing. When we shut down also, sometimes people remain extremely quiet after a difficult conversation. Then also it will help giving some time. So time out, but coming back to the conversation, putting a timeline to it, putting a time frame to it. Okay, we will have this conversation later after this amount of time is very important, and then adhering to that. Okay, so I hope that is a tip that helps you have better fights. Thanks, Nanika. Thanks for your, thank you to know that it was helpful. I think we have answered all questions, right?
Questions.
We have, right? Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you so much for keeping the patience and listening to all of this, and being so interactive. Really loved talking to all of you.
Thank you everyone for joining, and
thank you.
You
Bye,
can
guys.
follow her on the Instagram. I have shared the link. I'm sharing once again.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at @HeyMissTherapist if you haven't already. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Ambika. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kasturi.
Stay connected on Instagram, guys. Yeah. Have a good weekend.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.